down poverty. Now this is Dr. Ezekwesili's particular area, and there's a portion of this where I have referred to some of the things she said. But education is clearly one of the most important factors in beating poverty. And I'll focus on two types, just two issues in education. The first is the girl-child education, and the second is science and technology education. Now, you've seen some of the figures already. It's absolutely important, as we know, to educate women. And some people have said that if you educate a man, you educate one person. If you educate a woman, you educate a whole community. Because obviously, women are just more concerned about their children. They will pass on whatever they learn to their children, and they'll pass on whatever they learn more effectively to their communities. So it's absolutely important that we must pay attention in particular to the education of women. And in any event, women form about half the population of the country. So wherever you find that there is a deficit in female education, it means that there is a deficit in the overall education of the nation. And of course, poverty is one of the major results of that. Now, we've looked at some of the figures, and of course, you've seen that 2/3 of girls between the ages of 15 and 19 in the north, and 70.8% of women between the ages of 22 and 29 in the north have no form of education at all. Now, that is a dangerous thing indeed. It is the business of government to ensure that kind of situation is addressed. Now, there are so many causes, there are so many reasons, and we don't have enough time to look at all of them. But it must be the focus of government. As Simon Kola always said, people must actually sit down and decide that this is priority for us, and that we must ensure that in order to prevent mass poverty, we make provisions for this, for girl-child education, or for the education of women. Look at science and technology education. And here I quote something that Obi Ezekwesili wrote in a lecture in January, I think it was January 24th at the UNN, where she said that the economic evidence proves that one key variable that determines how fast nations outgrow others is the speed of accumulation of human capital, especially through science and technology. Today, science and technology is the new literacy. It's like literacy before now. If we're not literate and we're not bringing up our population to be literate in science and technology, then there's a problem, and we're going to experience that problem down the road. Aggressive investment in education is probably the only way out, or the only lasting way out of poverty. If you look at some countries, I was just reading something recently about Estonia. Estonia is a little country, 1.3 million people, and they used to be one of the old Soviet states, just a backwater, But they took some important decisions about science and technology education. One of those was quite innovative. They decided that from grade 1, from primary 1, they would educate their children in some software language. They decided that we will educate our children, we will teach them something. And they discovered, of course, that even that language, the language that they were able to teach their children, programming language, that was even easier to teach a programming language than to teach a human language. So their children from primary 1 learn to program. They learn programming languages from primary 1. No wonder that this little country called Estonia produced Skype. They program what is called the Skype, and all of us use Skype. So it came out of Estonia. Of course, it was funded by the Danish and the Swedes, but they actually produced it. And now this 1.3 million tiny little country is the technology hub for the whole of Eastern Europe today. And they simply took one right decision. There's no reason whatsoever why we cannot take that same sort of decision, why we can't sit down and decide that what we're going to do is to ensure that from primary school we start educating our children, especially science and technology education. Even in basic research, we have a problem, even basic research. Nigeria, we're told from some of the statistics that we have only 16 research scientists and engineers to 1 million people. So every 1 million people, we just have 16 researchers, 16 engineers altogether. But compare that with other countries. Brazil has about 148 to every 1 million. The US, of course, has about 4,000 and something to every 1 million. There is a problem with basic research, just basic research and development. We need to invest resources in this kind of things. Otherwise, not only have we been left behind, but the chances of being left even further behind are much, much higher. Now let's take a look at even the effect of modern media on education and what you can achieve with all of the new technologies in education. Some incredible things are already happening with education. Look at what India did, and again this was copied by Osun State. India provides tablets for millions of students. The tablet that contains all the textbooks, contains past question papers and those kinds of things. So every child has a tablet. Now you don't need to carry several textbooks or buy several textbooks. You don't need all the learning aids and all of that. Everything is in the tablet. And that has also been repeated here in Nigeria. And so as far-flung places like Aga, I'm sure many of us will know that, as Aga and far-flung places, the ends of the earth and many parts of that state, they now have a tablet. So a child does not need to have carry textbooks. Everything is already contained in the tablet. Now that is the way by which you can use technology effectively to reduce the cost of education and also to encourage young people to use technology and to teach people to use technology quickly and learn very quickly. Now, the other thing which I want to mention, again this is about education, is vocational skills training. Now vocational skills training is extremely important, but it must be targeted. There are all sorts of vocational skills training, teaching people to make soap, teaching people to make good tie and dye and all of that. But I think that it's time for us to target our vocational skills training at specific industries. Let's just take construction, for example. Government ought to take a decision that we're going to build our vocational institutions, vocational skills training around, say, construction. Because you will find that today there is a crying need for plumbers, for electricians, for persons who just lay tiles, for bricklayers in the construction industry. We're now importing them from Togo, from Benin, from Ghana. We're importing people good plumbers. We're importing good bricklayers. Whereas we can train these people locally. Lagos State, for example, has 18 vocational centers. I think so far they've trained about 26,000 people in the various areas, some of the areas I've mentioned. But that has to be replicated across the country. We must have people trained in skills that where they can immediately find work in order to reduce poverty. And vocational skills are easy, but not just any vocational skills. We should target particular industries and particular growth industries. Now let's look at the retail sector. And this is a very interesting development in our country because many of us know that the average Nigerian is into buying and selling. Everywhere you go, Nigerians are buying and selling. So we're one big market. We love to buy and sell. Now, it's important for us to also recognize that the largest sector outside of, say, construction, providing the jobs now, is the retail sector. Now, everybody agrees that we are a retailer's delight. We have a large population. We also have a good appetite for consumer goods. So what we should do is focus on expanding the retail sector. The South African companies have already discovered this. They've already smelt the money. So you have ShopRite. ShopRite used to have 7. ShopRite, as you know, is the largest retailer in South Africa. They used to have only 7 shops. But now, recently, their managing director was saying that they are now going to expand to 700 shops across Nigeria. 700 shops. They've recognized